From the pilot episode onward, Melissa Hastings was always lurking at the center of Rosewood's biggest secret. She had connections to Alison's disappearance, the NAT Club, Ian Thomas, Garrett Reynolds, Wilden, Bethany Young, and nearly every major mystery that shaped the series. She was intelligent, manipulative, fiercely protective of her family, and constantly one step ahead of Spencer and the other liars. Unlike many of the show's final suspects, Melissa didn't need a last-minute backstory or surprise British accent. The secrets were already there. The suspicion was definitely already there. And most importantly, the motive was too. Let's get into how. Hey guys, my name is Bethany Young, also known as Screenshots here on YouTube. Welcome to my humble little corner of the internet. If you are not new, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking all about the Melissa is A theory. The NAT Club was introduced to us in season 1, and it's pretty much a club founded by Alison DiLaurentis. Garrett is in it. Melissa is in it with her man Ian. Associated with Garrett, I guess, was Jenna, which is confusing because wasn't she like abusing Toby at this time? Or maybe Garrett came later? Because I don't think she was in the club when she was with Toby, because they have footage of her with Toby that she wouldn't want there to be footage of. Let me know what y'all think about that in the comments below. But anyway, Melissa is a member of this NAT Club, which is used to pretty much spy on the girls. I don't know why Melissa is even a part of this, because it's literally her boyfriend and his friends spying on underage girls changing in their bedrooms, and it's weird. But for some reason, she is a part of it. They would plant cameras in trees outside of people's windows and even pay girls to set up their friends. In season 2, episode 21, titled The Blonde Leading the Blind, Mona sent a video to the girls as A, revealing that Melissa was a member of the NAT Club. Now, this video proves that Melissa was in Alison's room the night that she went missing, looking for Alison because she stole some of the videos from Ian earlier that day. Alison, of course, immediately went to see Jenna with the blackmail and as a means of counting her out as A. Jenna, in retaliation, of course, called Garrett, who called Ian, who I'm assuming told Melissa, or maybe Melissa was there when Ian got that phone call. So now they're all hunting down Alison, trying to figure out what she's going to do with the video. That is how Melissa, Ian, Jenna, and Garrett all ended up in Alison's bedroom while she was either being thanked by Toby or blackmailing Byron or blowing off Ezra. I don't know, y'all. That was a busy night for the girl. I don't know what she was doing at this moment, but that's how they all ended up in her bedroom, and that's how we got that video. The point, though, is that the entire premise of the NAT Club is illegal and morally disgusting. So obviously Melissa could not let it get out that she was a member of this club. Imagine not only the shame brought on Melissa, but on the Hastings name for being associated. On the night Alison went missing, Melissa was first tracked in Alison's bedroom looking for the NAT Club tape. Jason claimed to have seen her later in the night talking to Cece, but in canon, that was really just like a weird drug-induced hallucination, I guess. Said later on that this never happened. We also know that later that night, Melissa found an unconscious Bethany face down in the ground. She had been hit over the head by Mona, but Melissa assumes that this is Alison who was attacked by Spencer, and Melissa buries the body. So in canon, Melissa really did love her sister, but she was just caught up between her love for Ian and all this corruption surrounding the NAT Club and everything that was going on. So in the canon timeline, it's explained that Melissa realized Mona was the one using the Alison mask and the black hoodie to blackmail her into going to the masquerade ball. So for whatever reason, she asked Shauna, of all people, where one could get a mask like that, and Shauna pointed her to Hector. That's how we get the whole situation with Spencer and Emily finding Melissa at Hector's place. He had conned her into posing for some masks so she could get some information about the Allie masks. He makes the same deal with Emily so she could pose for the Medusa masks. But that whole storyline never made any sense. Hector told the liars that Alison got those masks made so her friends could look like her. How did Mona end up with them then? Because I know for sure Alison didn't give it to her. How'd they end up with Cece? Did Alison give them to her? Probably not. Did Hector? Was Melissa telling the truth about needing information? Or was she there for the Alison masks herself? Maybe she made a deal. I'll pose and I'll give you masks and you give me the Allie masks, and then she distributes them to her A-team. Also, Melissa was the black swan. She claimed it was due to the blackmail about faking her pregnancy, but what if she was working with Mona all along? We know that isn't so far-fetched because Melissa is on Mona's anti-Allie squad in season 5. Not only was Melissa a member of the NAT Club, but she was the queen of dating crusty-ass men. First we had Ian, then we had Ren, then we had Garrett. And Garrett and Melissa got together almost immediately after Jenna dumped him, and not that long after Ian's body was found. I also do want to say that timing was so suspicious because right around the time Garrett started hanging out with Melissa, that's when Jenna turned in page 5 or page 4 of the autopsy report to the police and got Garrett arrested. It's just very interesting. Like, were they conspiring to get rid of the rest of the NAT Club, so it was just like those two last men standing, the two ladies left? I don't know, because by then, who else was there? Ian was out, he was gone. Jason had kind of just backed away from that club. He was like, this is getting weird, y'all. I don't want to be a part of this shit no more. Ooh, let's also not forget that Melissa was the one who took that picture of Allie, Cece, and Wilden and Kate May. Well, I mean, we could I don't know, because Cece told us that bit of information, and Cece's a lying ass bitch. Like, let's be for real. If we believe her, then it was Melissa. But it could have been some random dude off the boat. Like, we don't know. Cece just be saying, so take that information with a grain of salt. But also though, why was Melissa and Ren working with Shauna in the canon timeline? There's an episode where Shauna is like inside of Ren's apartment, and it said that she was helping him move, but like, do we believe that? Of all the things Shauna had going on in Rosewood, really? Melissa knew that the liars were responsible for blinding Jenna. So if she was working so hard to protect her sister, why would she send two people who hated Spencer and the other liars? Why would she send those two, of all the people in the world, to go to the lodge to look after the girls? You can't make that make sense. What would have made sense though was if Melissa was and she was either blackmailing Jenna and Shauna into helping her, or she just recruited them because, hey, they hated the liars just as much as she did. And one last piece of evidence that I think was interesting, or I'm gonna give two more actually. The first one is that it's so interesting how Melissa always went AWOL when the A stuff was really revving up. Like, she was always flying out to London or out of town for this, or on a spa trip here, but they were always mentioning her. Usually when a character is written out, they're just stopped being mentioned. Mike, for example, we would hear in season 7, like, oh, he's not coming to the wedding, and that would be it. Like, you wouldn't hear about him again. But Melissa, they were always talking about Melissa, even when she wasn't there, even if she had been written out for 15 consecutive episodes. When Spencer flew to London for her interview, Melissa wasn't even there in the beginning when she got there. Then Melissa shows up and there's blood in her bag, crashing her interview. I doubt that got through TSA. Somebody had to have planted it in London. There's another instance where Toby flies to London so he can get answers from Melissa, or make Melissa give Spencer answers. And again, Melissa is not there. Ren answers the door, which I don't even think at that time anyone knew that Ren and Melissa were dating again. That was also so crusty. Like, you keep going back to this man that macked on your sister the day he met, like immediately after he met her. Anyway, so let's get into the alternate ending. What of Melissa was A? If you guys are enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a like. It really helps the channel. This is a brand new channel and we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys could leave a like, share this video, comment, all the things, it would really make a difference. Yeah, thanks. One thing I love about this show is that there are just so many ways it could have gone and so many motives that there are to explore. Melissa being A was a pretty popular theory back in the day, and there are also a couple of arcs in the show where even the liars are convinced that it is Melissa. What if they got it right? What if Melissa really was A? Let's explore how she could have gotten there, what her motive may have been, and how the timeline would have ultimately ended. In the canon timeline, Melissa came across Bethany's face-down body and buried her, thinking that Spencer had hit Alison over the head with the shovel. Personally, I love this. This reveal gave so much insight into Melissa's character, especially her anger towards Spencer in season 1. Melissa was convinced that her sister murdered Alison and was framing the man that she loved for the said murder. I would keep all this the same. Let's say that Cece helped Alison lure Bethany to Rosewood with the intention of faking Alison's death. Now, I love this. This was a theory that was like popping up around season 5, and yeah, I love this. I wish that they had gone with this. I think, like, I like Mona hitting Bethany over the head. I do like that reveal. I think that was good. However, there were so many clues that Alison intentionally faked her death. We had a letter at one point of Alison writing to Bethany. A loves planting fake evidence, but say it was real. Say Alison really did lure Bethany to Rosewood. In this letter, Bethany is thanking Alison for the yellow top. So I think that would have been really interesting if she had done that and she got Bethany in Rosewood and had the intention of, you know, unaliving her. I think it would have been really interesting if, say, Ezra, because at that time they were finagling, if he had mentioned to her a book that he was reading where the character had faked their death, and this kind of got the idea, the light bulb going off in her head, like, I could do that and investigate and I could figure out who A is that way. So we'll say that Bethany gets to the backyard, Alison hits her over the head with the shovel that she just took from Spencer and told Spencer, girl, go take a nap, you doing too much. Hits Bethany over the head and puts the bracelet on her. But then she hears Melissa coming and runs away with Cece to hide. So Melissa discovers Bethany's body, thinks it's Alison, thinks Spencer did it. She buries Bethany, and then Cece and Alison are like, oops, oh shit. So now Cece comes out and is like, Melissa, what are you doing? What's going on? And that is when Jason spots them talking. But then season 1 rolls around and it kind of becomes the catalyst for what makes Melissa grow to hate Spencer and by extension the other liars. First, Melissa catches Spencer macking on her fiance in her room, and that effectively ends the engagement. Then Spencer convinces Melissa to get back together with Ian. She does, and Spencer immediately goes to the police with the trophy trying to say that Ian killed Alison. And in Melissa's head, she's like, Spencer, you killed Alison. Why are you trying to frame the man that I love? Obviously, it's gonna feel like a slap in the face. Like, I did this for you and this is how you repay me? Grateful. And on top of that, from Melissa's perspective, it seems like Spencer is obsessed with Ian. She's stalking him. She's investigating the NAT Club and her, Melissa, by extension, because she's part of that club. And the liars are trying to expose him and expose all of them. Obviously, in this timeline, we're going to scrap the video that Melissa sends to Spencer confessing to the crime of killing Bethany. Instead, I would have this reveal be a flashback, and we'll get to when we have this flashback. Essentially, it would be Melissa confessing to Ian everything that happened on the night that Allison went missing, and in response, he will propose to her. This has always kind of been my headcanon behind their elopement. I think Melissa and Ian, they just kind of had this twisted ass understanding. Like, they knew the other person was messed up in the head, and they liked that about each other. I think that they had this whole kind of like Bonnie and Clyde thing going on behind the scenes. So when she confessed that she was actually a murderer, he just loved her even more for it, and that's how they ended up getting married. But we'll save that flashback again for a little later on. We're getting ahead of ourselves though. Let's talk about how I would have Melissa become A, because I would keep seasons 1 and 2 completely the same with Mona. We know that Melissa and Ren ended things pretty roughly at the beginning of season 1. However, they came to some sort of agreement by the beginning of season 2 when he was helping her with the medical supplies for Ian. So I'd say that they rekindled their relationship quickly but quietly. And he reached out to Melissa instead of Cece as like a mentor kind of figure for Mona. If you really stop to think about it, Melissa could also have developed this same like omniscient need, whatever the personality disorder was that Dr. Sullivan diagnosed Mona with. Melissa also could have easily developed that based on the way that she was raised and the constant need to know everything and be smarter than everyone. Spencer too, but we're talking about Melissa here. We'll say that Ren recognizes that in Melissa, and he asks her to help Mona to find positive outlets, but this would backfire greatly. Rather than Melissa helping Mona, it'd be Mona giving Melissa everything she needed to take over the game as A. The same way Cece stopped visiting Mona in the canon timeline when they changed her meds and she stopped getting all brain foggy, I would say Melissa did the same thing. So here, Mona still has no idea who Big A is, and Melissa is working very hard to keep her identity secret. She discovered, or she learned about the Allison masks from Mona during this whole fuzzy word vomiting sessions that she has with Mona. Mona would also share with Melissa at this time that Lucas is the one who cleared out her lair. She instructed him that if anything goes wrong and, you know, she ends up getting caught or arrested or anything like that at the end of the night, because there was, of course, a risk of that if she was going to expose herself to Spencer, she instructed Lucas to clear out room 2, which he did. And so now Melissa knows that Lucas has the masks, and she knows what Mona had on Lucas to make him participate in the first place. This gives Melissa the means to jump right in as Big A and keep Lucas on the A team anonymously. In the canon timeline, A told Spencer to lure the girls to the lodge for a welcome home party since she was just released from Radley. I'd keep this. Melissa would like the location because it's familiar and easily contained. This would still be a scheme to find out if Allison is really alive, just like it was with Cece. The difference, though, is that Shauna wouldn't be working separately from A here. She'd be working with Melissa because she hates the liars. I would cut Shauna's relationship with Allison, though, for this timeline. I'd make it so that she was just a transfer who joined the swim team, didn't get along with Emily, but then fell in love with Jenna and learned about how she became blinded. So I would have it where Jenna and Shauna were on their way to the lodge to help Melissa when they got that call from Wilden. They helped him up after he was hit or run over by Ashley, and they took him to the lodge to lay low. while they continued their plans. So they'd set the lodge on fire. Alison would be the one to land the plane, confirming that she was alive, and she'd rescue Hannah and Emily just like in canon. Actually, I think it was Cece who landed the plane in canon, but I don't really get why here. I definitely have it be Alison who landed the plane because we spent an entire arc establishing that she knows how to fly a plane for no reason. So after the fire, the remaining members of the A-team, which at this point would be, of course, Melissa, Jenna and Shauna, Wilden. Like, these are the members of the A-team that know who the other members of the A-team are. Lucas is technically still a member, but he's very much a middleman. Like, he doesn't know who's running the strings at all. He's being blackmailed most of the time. These 4 members, they're going to be arguing about how to handle Alison being alive. Melissa and Jenna would actively want to take Alison out. They're like, listen, she might be alive, but she doesn't need to. We can handle this tonight. Wilden and Shauna are going to be like, listen, just leave her where she is. We don't have to actually do anything. She's not coming back. Like, we know she's gone. We know that she's alive now. We can use that to our advantage. We should follow her, but we don't need to actually take her out. That's an unnecessary risk. And we'll say that this fight escalates so much that Melissa ends up taking Wilden out. And at this point, Jenna and Shauna are just in too deep. Like, they can't get out of this now. That whole storyline of Emily waking up at Alison's gravesite, that whole storyline was so convoluted, and I think there were still so many plot holes and answers we didn't even get. But let's talk about what the timeline of that night could have looked like had Melissa been the one in charge. So in canon, Emily found her way to Paige's house after having been drugged by a flask. We could easily say that Melissa got these drugs from Ren, planted them in the flask, and there we go. Then from Paige's house, Paige went inside to get Emily some water, where Emily disappeared after being lured to the gravesite by a phone call from Spencer's phone. Again, easily this could have been Melissa. She would have the keys to her own house. So we could say that Melissa is the one in the black hoodie digging up the grave, while Jenna is behind her in the red coat. And they are both wearing the Alison masks given to them by Lucas, who has been getting anonymous blackmail directions from Melissa. He'd also have been instructed to photograph the liars at the gravesite, just like in the canon timeline. I really like the idea of Melissa and Jenna, the 2 remaining members of the NAT Club, working together. In canon, the NAT Club really just kind of fizzled out. Like, most of the members ended up getting killed. Jason got the elevator attack, which I don't know if we ever really found out why that happened. And then Jenna kept on getting attacked a bunch of times, but she, for whatever reason, survived them. Melissa, I don't think anyone ever really targeted Melissa other than blackmailing her, but there we go. I really do like, though, this NAT Club sticking together all throughout the show and working behind the scenes to punish the people of Rosewood or just cause mischief and mayhem. It also makes a lot of sense for the NAT Club members to evolve into becoming A, because, I mean, what was the NAT Club really for? Or what was Melissa, for example, included in that club for if she wasn't, you know, beating her meat to, or I don't know, stuffing a turkey to 14-year-old girls changing in their bedrooms? She had to have gotten something out of it, and maybe what she liked getting out of it was juicy secrets of all the members of Rosewood to blackmail them with later on. It's the perfect origin story. It makes a lot of sense too, this Melissa-Jenna duo, because Melissa could have easily been the one handling the medical stuff or convincing Ren to handle things that she couldn't do on her own, while Jenna was handling stuff at school. And when Jenna's vision failed her, she would recruit people like Noel Kahn, Shauna, and even Lucas through blackmail to do the things that she couldn't do. Melissa being behind the dollhouse would have been bananas, but not completely far-fetched. Vengeful over Ian's death, angry about Spencer's lies, desperate for control and bitter about the other liars being free to roam around Rosewood while she felt trapped in the same vicious cycles. Melissa decided to take things up a notch. In this timeline, I would keep Alison coming back from the dead and being framed for Mona's murder. Alison was responsible, after all, for the deaths of Bethany, Ian, and Garrett. I'll say that she killed him too. And although Ian and Garrett were crusties, Bethany 1000% did not deserve to go out the way that she did. And yeah, so we'll say that justice is served on that one, with Alison being in prison. I would actually have Melissa kill Mona, though. There just wouldn't be any reason to put Mona in the dollhouse when Melissa's main targets were really just Spencer and the other liars, and Alison, but she already got her revenge on Alison by putting her in prison. So putting the other liars in the dollhouse is just like the ultimate moment for her, you know? And I think it could be really interesting to explore Melissa genuinely jealous of the friendship between the liars. We have never seen Melissa to have any kind of girlfriends on the show. All she ever really had was her sister Spencer, a sister who constantly lied to her and chose her friends over the family over and over and over and over and over again. So kind of like the same way Mona resented Hannah for not telling her the truth about A, even when Mona was getting these A texts and also being blackmailed, Hannah didn't feel like she could tell Mona because of the other liars and all the things that it would unravel. Spencer is the same thing with Melissa. She can't tell Melissa what's going on, and Melissa is pissed about it. She's fuming. She's like, literally giving Spencer all of these opportunities to tell her what's going on, and Spencer is just lying and lying and lying and lying, and it's festering in Melissa and pissing her off even more and building this anger up and making her more and more and more and more just furious at her sister, almost to the point where she feels justified in what she's doing. And it would really rev her up to the point where she also does the trick on Spencer in the dollhouse with all the blood all over her and making her feel like she had hurt someone. This is a callback to the Bethany Alison burial situation. It's like, yeah, you are more than capable of hurting someone. Look at what you did to Bethany. Bethany's death / Alison's disappearance was the main catalyst in Melissa and Spencer's relationship completely disintegrating. So I would repeatedly have callbacks to that. And I'd also say that Melissa liked the irony of Mona treating the girls like dolls. And that's why she created the dollhouse, because it's like, yeah, Mona had them as her dolls, but I can do that. And I can do it bigger, and I can do it better. So that's how she ended up with the concept for the dollhouse. So since by now Shauna is dead, I would have Jenna recruit Noel to help out with the dollhouse. I think in canon, Cece and Noel had their own relationship for years at this point of the dollhouse, at the point of the dollhouse, because Cece knew Noel's older brother. Maybe they dated briefly. I might be making that up though. But I do like the idea of Jenna being the one who brings Noel in to the fold of the whole A thing. I like Noel being in the dollhouse in the canon timeline just felt so random, and this way it feels a little bit more natural because you see how Melissa and Jenna got together, and then you see how Jenna hooked Noel up with Melissa. Now, obviously, the vault inside of the dollhouse is going to be significantly different here. There is no Charles DiLaurentis in this storyline. The vault would be a lot more like Mona's lair from the Lost Woods resort. I'd have every newspaper clipping about Bethany Young up in there. I think Melissa would be kind of obsessed over it. I would also have Melissa, this is a bit of a sidebar, but I would have Melissa be the one who dresses up as the Black Widow. She is the one who sent the flowers, the funeral package to Bethany Young's parents. I feel like this is something that's kind of weighed on her, and it's been like her, like this is her origin villain story, her villain origin story. her villain origin story, and it really has a heavy impact on her heart. But of course, Melissa and Spencer are sisters. They were raised together, and at the end of the day, Spencer is going to figure out, like, this is Melissa's lair? What the f? So just as Spencer realizes this is my sister, Melissa will appear in her black hoodie and deliver her full-fledged villain monologue exposing everything that's happened and why she's done everything and how she's done everything. And this is when Melissa talks about the proposal and how she ended up eloping with Ian, how she told him what happened. She knew he wasn't guilty and she hated Spencer for trying to put the blame on him. Mind you, it was Mona who was planting a lot of this evidence, and Melissa figures that out over time, but she's still angry at Spencer, and she still can't really shake that feeling of anger towards her sister. She got her vengeance on Mona. She took care of Mona already, but Spencer, she needed her sister to suffer. So there's gonna be a final showdown, and the trophy that Mona planted to get the girls to think that Ian was the one who had unalived Alison with the trophy, that is going to be in the vault, and Spencer will use it to hit Melissa over the head the same way Bethany had been hit over the head all those years ago, and the liars will escape the dollhouse. But by the time the liars return to the dollhouse with the police, Melissa will be gone. I like the idea of Melissa surviving the dollhouse and just being out on the run for the time jump. It creates this feeling of unease for the girls because although the stalking ended when they escaped the dollhouse, they'll never truly trust that it's over, and they shouldn't. And it would also cause further divide between Spencer and her family, her parents, because she's always going to be suspicious of them. Like, are you guys secretly abating Melissa? And knowing them, they probably would be, because at the end of the day, like, they were never really ever good at choosing between their daughters, Peter and Veronica alike. Whenever things went down between Spencer and Melissa, I'll be honest, a lot of the time they chose Melissa. And I'm not saying that they would fully choose Melissa in the scenario, because Melissa was wilding out, like, being A is crazy as hell, but I think that they wouldn't completely forsake her, and I think Spencer also would know this, so it would cause a lot of tension with her parents. And we'll say that after the time jump, the liars are returning to Rosewood for Hannah and Caleb's wedding. No, there's no Spaleb in this timeline, and I'm not sorry. Alison is still in jail for Mona's murder. I would have Spencer in absolute shambles mentally. She has relapsed again. She's genuinely struggling with her addiction in this roundabout. I think it would be a lot different if Melissa were A versus Cece was A. Like, when it was Cece, Spencer was kind of able to not heal, because of course she was still traumatized after the dollhouse, but she was at least able to function as a person in society. She helped her mom with her campaign. She was a lobbyist. She did all these things. But in this timeline, this is her big sister who ruined her life. And it's going to have a much bigger impact on Spencer's mental health. Like, she would really be struggling worse than Emily was in canon timeline. And speaking of Emily, I would still have her be in the situation that she's in, where she has to donate her eggs. I'm not obviously doing the Alison egg planting situation, because there's no Archer Dunhill, and Alison's still in prison, as she should be, so that's fine. And I would also have Arya still be in a love triangle. Ezra, let's just forget about him. Let's say he's been written out from season 2, or he's dead. I don't know. I don't care. Ezra's not important in the storyline, and he's not included. But I would have a love triangle between Arya, Jason DiLaurentis, and one of the guys at her publishing company. We can keep Liam. Let's keep Liam. I think a lot of Arya's storylines are very much round about her relationships, so whatever, let's just maintain the trend. So the morning after the rehearsal dinner for Hannah and Caleb, Melissa's body will be found hanging in the church, the same way that we saw Ian's body hanging at the end of season 1. And as the liars all approach the church and they see what's going on, they will all receive a text. And the text will say, Melissa played the game, I wrote the rules. Now she's gone and your asses are mine. Miss me? A. I'm working on another PLL Ultimate rewrite similar to this one. If you haven't checked that out, by the way, check it out. I've gotten lots of comments saying that people really love that video. But on this new PLL Ultimate rewrite, I will pick up this Uber A theory over there. For now though, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this Melissa is A theory. If you did, leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!